Earlier this week, the Eau Claire County Sheriff's Department issued a statement regarding a recent attack on an officer by an inmate at the county jail. It's brought the issue of safety and incarceration into the spotlight.
Bob, Danielle, as you can see behind me, crews are responding to a house fire here on 5th and Grand Avenues. Now, when we first got here, there were a lot of flames coming out of that second story of the building. You can see firefighters are working their way up. Definitely have to come out tomorrow, and we're actually going to meet one of the athletes here. We have Katie Gravitt. Katie, you have volunteered at this event before. Can you tell us a little bit about what your favorite part is?
Filling up the gas.
Well, I think what we heard from many people's questions tonight is they're unsure about why this is becoming normalized and what more we can do to help with prevention efforts to keep our schools safe.
Now, these note cards were on every table, some of them a little eye-opening, saying social media can inspire you, while others say it's really easy to get bullied. One thing they want you to consider if you're taking a loved one out is the weather, making sure to plan that your loved one has a safe exiting and entering pathway. Area high school student is being recognized for an accomplishment few can say they've achieved. WEAU's Taj Mahal joins us now with more on one student's dedication to his education. What's nice is that your phone automatically updates for you, even though every other
your car
device doesn't.
And your oven.
The case is still under investigation. That's why police declined to comment. However, the question still remains as to how can sexual assault cases go on for so long without being detected. As you can see, police are still on scene actively investigating the situation. And if we take a look kind of back farther there, you can see the Marathon County Bomb Squad.
So that we can serve more people.
Well, I may need to work on my serve a little bit. This facility is really all about the community. The Humane Association says they typically see quieter animals like birds or reptiles being left behind, while police say they mostly get calls from landlords about cats.
Obviously, April showers should mean rain showers.
Right, except it was snowflowers this year, right. Unfortunately.
Anglers are prepping to cast their lines as fishing season in Wisconsin kicks off tomorrow. WEAU's Taj Mahal joins us now with what you need to know ahead of this weekend's opener. Tashma. The Wisconsin Department of Justice is stepping in on the new hemp industry in Wisconsin. WEAU's Zach Perlutsky tells us why farmers are ready to fight back against these changes. The Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation is calling the notice an 11th hour bombshell as the application period for Wisconsin's first industrial hemp program closed on May 1st. The program was legalized last year, and the Farm Bureau Federation says it was operating under the belief that CBD production would be legal under the pilot program. They say this notice is having serious legal and financial implications for hundreds of farmers and processors across the state. Today, family, friends, and colleagues honored the victims of last week's medical helicopter crash in Oneida County. Ascension Wisconsin Spirit Medical Transport and Air Methods hosted a memorial service in Woodruff, northwest of Rhinelander, paying tribute to the crew members. Emily Davies reports. On April 26, Caruso, Mitchell, and Rosenthal lost their lives when their medical helicopter crashed while returning from a patient transfer. 4 men are charged in connection of the killing of a former Packers player. Former Packers defensive lineman Carlos Gray was shot to death Monday in a killing sheriff's officials believe was linked to a drug trade. They say 21-year-old Daryl Thomas was found dead of bullet wounds the next day. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Department says friends of 25-year-old Gray believe Thomas killed him, and Thomas was killed in retaliation. Capital murder charges were filed in Thomas's death Thursday against the 4 men. A new transportation program is helping seniors in rural areas get rides to where they want to go. The Aging and Disability Resource Center in Eau Claire has a new vehicle that's wheelchair accessible for seniors over the age of 60 or with disabilities. Rides are primarily used for shopping, errands, and special events. Organizers say they're still in the early stages of planning, but add it's been successful since starting the program last month. Trips are offered Monday through Friday based on scheduling. In April, the ADRC gave a total of 21 rides. Tourism spending in Wisconsin rose more than 3% from last year to $12.7 billion. Data released by the Tourism Department and Governor's Office show that tourism accounted for $20.6 billion in total sales. Milwaukee County led all counties in direct tourist spending, followed by Dane and Sauk counties. Governor Walker says the travel and hospitality industry is booming and that tourism continues to be crucial to the state economy. A big event bringing tourism to Eau Claire is Sunday's marathon, a traffic note to drivers as there will be several street closures and parking restrictions. City leaders say closures will begin at 7 a.m. and last until 1 p.m. There will be parking restrictions along the race route that will be posted with no parking marathon Sunday signs. There will also be no parking allowed in Carson Park before the race. Organizers say there are 2 designated parking areas at the UW Eau Claire parking lot on Water Street and the CVTC parking lot number 3 on West Claremont Avenue. Shuttles will run from 6:15 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, log on to weau.com. Coming up in Sports Scene 13, we'll hear from Packers head coach Mike McCarthy on this year's draft picks. But first, one area school district is saying thank you to their community. We'll tell you how next. You're watching WEIU 13 News at 6.
I found him outside, and I couldn't believe it. I just, threw myself over him and just was falling hysterically. I don't know why I said call 911 because I knew he wasn't alive anymore.
That was 6 years ago. And every year on March 5th, Christine Huth of Fairchild hopes the sun will be shining as she tries to make it through the day.
It feels like yesterday. Unfortunately, the vision doesn't go away with the grief journey. And some days it's more rough than others. Other days you can pedal on through.
Her son, Nick, was 18 when he died. While he's not physically with her, she keeps him close to her heart every day.
This is the last birthday picture. It was taken, and it's just one of my favorites because he always had on that Under Armour Badger sweatshirt, and he always had on his white Under Armour hat.
She says Nick was an outgoing kid that loved sports cars and loved to laugh. Nick had missed some school due to health problems, and the night before returning to school, Christine says her last words to her son.
I just said, I'm so proud of you. You're going to buckle down. You're going to get this done and catch up. And he's like, yeah, I know, Mom. I will.
Christine says she had talked to her son about suicide prevention, so she was shocked when she woke up the next morning and he was gone.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. Because we had talked 2 weeks prior about it. About suicide prevention. So it was a subject that was brought up. And I just couldn't believe because he said he would never do it. And yet he did.
According to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, suicide is the second leading cause of death for 15 to 34-year-olds in Wisconsin. And men die by suicide nearly 4 times more than women.
There's another word for suicide that I like even better, and that's penticide. And that word means the killing of pain. And that's what somebody is really trying to do.
Amy Segerstrom is the coordinator of the Healing Place, and that's where she met Christine, helping her try to understand why.
People often struggle with, why did this happen? Why did it happen? Why didn't they tell me? Why didn't they come to me? Because I have yet to hear of a case where somebody didn't know that they were loved by their family. They know they're loved. They honestly believe that I'm a burden to my family, and I'm actually relieving my family of that burden.
Health experts say research has shown that there are typically signs, but that's not always the case.
Yes, I did find it a little bit embarrassing because that I felt like a failure as a parent. What did I do wrong that he did this? But through the acceptance and the grieving process, I've come to realize I didn't do anything wrong. I was just being a mom, raising my child.
While the winter time does tend to get people down, experts say that it's a common misperception that suicide occurs more in the winter months. It actually peaks in the springtime, May through August. But suicide is not a time-sensitive topic. Local health experts say you should not be afraid to have that conversation.
It's not something people talk about publicly, and even in the obituaries, people typically don't list that their loved one died by suicide. And there is a stigma associated with a suicide death, I think, because people do feel that sense of guilt. Suicide is the tragic end result of somebody that has some kind of mental illness going on in over 90% of the cases.
While each day may have its ups and downs, Christine has found a new way to help her grieve. She started the Suicide Survivor Group nearly 2 years after her son's death in April of 2015, which meets twice a month.
It's like another family. It's like having a third family.
Like members of this group, experts say talking about suicide prevention is key to helping more people.
You know, don't sweep it under the rug, don't ignore it, to ask them how they're feeling and even ask direct questions.
Already this year, there have been a total of 4 deaths by suicide in Eau Claire and Chippewa counties. Last year, numbers show 18 people died in Eau Claire County because of suicide, and in Chippewa County, there were 11. But there are several opportunities for help. While it may feel a little embarrassing to reach out, Segerstrom says as humans, we are meant to connect with one another over our joys and our pains.
Don't walk this journey alone.
As Christine continues to work through her journey, she says her son's memories will never fade.
One of my memories that just sits with me is us two jamming out, driving down the road. It just, you know, I'm bouncing around. It's just one of those things that just, if I'm feeling sad, I focus on that memory because it just makes me smile.
And says she hopes to help others in any way she can.
I now will smile at everybody I walk past because you don't know if that person is having a really bad day and they might be contemplating. And you just smiling at them might make the difference.
We cried a lot.
On March 7th, 2017, Chris Niles of Eau Claire was found unresponsive.
You were living your life normally, and then this happened, and then it's a blur after that.
Yes.
Chris suffered from the deadliest kind of stroke with bleeding in his brain, and he was only 34 years old, leaving his family with a life or death decision, which his mother Bonnie says was the most difficult moment.
Christopher has always been one of the most determined people I have ever met.
And because of that, Chris is now in outpatient therapy 1 year later.
Oh, yes. long journey.
Well, March 7th marks the 1-year anniversary that Chris was brought through these doors. His family's choosing not to look at this as a day of sadness, but a day of celebration.
A celebration that he's still with us. It could have gone so terribly wrong if he hadn't been found when he did.
While some parents only get to see their kids take their first steps once in their lives,
with each thing that he could do, it was like I never thought I'd see it again.
Chris is now back walking, talking.
I can drive. That's one thing.
Health experts say the average age someone has a stroke is 67, and it's because Chris was so young, therapists say it helped his recovery.
Typically, actually, we see the outcomes are better on our younger patients, so getting that intensive therapy right out the gate really helps improve outcomes for a younger person like Chris.
But Chris has never lost his determination.
One of the things that I always talk to family and the stroke patient about is that their attitude will make or break them. And so I always encouraged Chris to have a positive attitude.
While his road to recovery is not over, Chris says his next goal is only getting closer each day.
Yeah, more independent. Yes, more independence.
Support for veterans is pouring out across the country this week as we approach Veterans Day on Saturday. But local veterans say support is something they depend on every day.
Well, many people have a neighbor, a friend, a classmate, or even a family member who has served our country. Truly understanding and supporting them when they come back from war can be difficult to understand. WEAU's Abigail Hantke met with local veterans to talk about the disconnect and shares their stories.
Now, how long have you guys been married?
9.5 years.
Just about to say that.
It's been a tough road for the Hanrahans, transitioning back to a different normal in Black River Falls after Kevin's time in the military.
Yeah.
We all kind of got in together.
Kevin, who served in the Marines, spent 3 years in a hospital after getting hurt in Afghanistan, with his wife Whitney by his side.
Somebody, said one time he's just missing a leg. And he can make it to this stuff, or he can go in his wheelchair. But I'm like, it's not just that. He also has a brain injury. He also has PTSD.
It's natural for anybody to try to relate to somebody. I've been walking through the store before, and people come up and say, "Oh, like I have an uncle that's missing a leg," not knowing how I lost it.
The couple says making the transition back from their military family to a life in the woods is difficult at times because you're surrounded by people that can't understand the experience.
People don't realize that there's still guys on the ground fighting the fight, and that plays into the fact that people just don't understand really what's going on.
Like your pain, what you've gone through. I've slept at the hospital with you for 3 straight months, like every night in a chair. So it's like I've seen what you've gone through to protect this country.
Adam Coles with the Veterans Office, an Army veteran deployed twice, says today only 1% of the American population is active duty, creating a sort of subpopulation across the states.
Yeah, I'd say there's a disconnect.
Coles, who has seen and experienced firsthand veterans and their families trying to make the transition back home, says that transition is not always easy.
In the military, you're taught how to adapt, basically, in every situation. So you kind of, it's hard to turn it off, yet you use the same skills you have in the military to kind of adapt back to civilian life. But there's a few bumps and things that they just don't turn off.
Especially leaving behind what they knew as normal for what the majority of the nation considers a normal life.
Hit the second time, and I ended up driving a truck.
While coming home from war may sound like a good thing, the welcoming back for veterans has not always been positive. Vietnam War veterans Edward Michaels and Dan Ziegler say the change in support they've seen since they returned has been a complete 180.
I've had more people come up to me and thank me for being a veteran than the day I did come home, the day I was just about ready to get back on the plane and go back over where I came from.
Again, that was 50 years ago, and things have changed quite a bit. I guess as old veterans now, we're accepted.
And with Veterans Day around the corner,
thank a veteran out there, you know, even when it's not Veterans Day. They appreciate it.
While all of the veterans I spoke with say there's never a wrong time to thank a vet, whether it's a simple thank you, buying them a cup of coffee, or even just spending some time with them. While you may only see the physical side just passing by a veteran, you never truly know what they've been through. I'm Abigail Hantke, WEIU 13 News.